there was a convention in Brno in Czechia, which is they invited us over, and they helped defray expenses for Sharon and me. So we decided that since the girls are graduating this year, and it would be our last chance to take everybody as a family, that we would go ahead, we would take everyone. We went over a week early, a little bit more than a week early, for just the convention. And instead of flying into Prague, we flew into Warsaw. And we spent 4 days in Warsaw, then took the train to Prague and spent right on a week there. And then went on to Brno for the convention. And then we drove from Brno back to Prague to catch the airplane home the Monday after the con. And I do not think you could have put an extra molecule into the luggage compartments of the two cars that we had. I mean, the guy who drove us, really, really nice guy. He's IT kind of guy. And apparently he spends a lot of time driving around with, the entire deck of his car loaded with electronic equipment and whatnot. He was like, he took everything apart like 4 times and put it back together again. And by God, between the two cars, we got everything in. But you should have seen the expression. Yannick, if you're watching, you should have seen the expression on Yannick's face when I said, we may need to get another small suitcase in Brno and carry on. He's like, well, I could see him thinking, where are you going to put it? And I was kind of like, oh, well, I'll have to find another way. And he was like, but he was right. There was no place to put it, and we managed it. None of the bags were overweight on the way home, which was nice.
That's always good.
Oh yeah. But the worst part of the trip, from my perspective, was that I have arthritis and facet joint problems in my back, and they were awful on this entire trip. Sharon had to take me to the emergency room here in Greenville 2 nights before we left because the back pain had just flared up that day and was so severe. And she was like, are you going to be able to go? And I said, yes. And she said, are you sure? And I said, yes, even though I wasn't sure. So then comes the day. And now the ER doc was able to give me pain meds, but he could only prescribe a limited supply, which is, I understand entirely, given where we are with people worrying about opioids and everything else. But I was going to be out of the country for 2 weeks, and I couldn't get by my doc till I got back, which meant that what I had was what I had. And given 9-hour flight times, I knew where I really wanted to have them available, if you know what I'm saying. So she brought me home. We got delivered to the airport, and you were there, so you saw me on my cane all the way in. They got us onto the airplane. We got to Atlanta, and they're boarding the plane to go to Amsterdam, and the EMS guys are doing EKGs and whatnot on me because of the severe chest pains that I was having. And Sharon is like, are you going to be able to go? And I'm like, of course I'll be able to go. And she says, don't you dare have a heart attack on me over mid-Atlantic. And I'm saying, I wouldn't dream of it. And she says, yeah, easy for you to say. You won't be there if it happens. And I'm like, so yeah. But it was like, now we did have medical insurance. So if we had not been able to make the flight, because of medical reasons, the tickets would have been refunded. Okay. But that was not really the point. The point was that this was carefully planned and people in Europe were expecting it. So the EMS guy said, well, what we can tell you right this minute is you are not having a heart attack as we sit here. Okay, we can't tell you whether or not you had one before we got here, but your rhythm is good, everything looks good, so it's up to you. We're not about to call an ambulance and sling your butt in you take you to the hospital, because otherwise you're going to die, and we don't want you to do that on our watch. It makes such a mess, So we got on the plane, and things quieted down chest-wise. The back was still a problem. And I don't know, I have on occasion, very, very rarely and a long time ago, had GERD. But if that was what this was, it was the worst GERD I ever had in my life. What it actually might have been is I had at least one tear in the chest wall from an accident in my youth. That we didn't do MRIs and whatnot when I was in my 20s. Okay, it was like they kind of stand you between the candle and the doc, to see what you see. Anyway, your grandmother, after her first stroke, she was about ready to come home from the hospital. And we moved her in with us for a month. And I was moving a bookcase in those days, moving a bookcase, and man, I went to my knees with chest pain. Oh God! The only thing I could think later was that if a real heart attack is worse than that, then I just hope it's instantly fatal. Okay, it was bad. So Sharon is like taking me to the hospital because we think I'm having a heart attack. And they do all the blood work and everything. You're not having a heart attack. Never had a heart attack. But they start doing MRIs. And they say, oh, well, here's what happened. You have some tears in the chest wall that never really healed. They're just these like adhesions holding them together. And we see a little blood in here where you popped one of those puppies. Okay. And I got to thinking about it. That could be what happened here because the pain was almost as bad. And it faded almost as quickly. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, I didn't have any more chest problems the whole time that I was over there. Good. But the back was still an issue and stayed an issue. The first hotel we were in, the Sofitel Victoria in Warsaw, really a nice hotel. The only problem was that the beds were soft enough that I couldn't get the back support that I needed for it to get better. Aside from that, it was good. But I was in so much back pain that I was basically stuck in the hotel. And Sharon's asthma was flaring. Okay, so I was kind of like, okay, she will drop dead of asthma if we go on a long walk, kind of thing. It was cold, it was rainy, it was gray. I love Warsaw. Okay, after Prague, it's probably my favorite city outside Greenville. But there was no way that I could go everywhere I wanted to go with the kids. But Greg, one of our friends over there, who was my interpreter on our first trip over there with Rebus, my Polish publisher. Okay. He had volunteered to be our guide while we were there. And he took the kids a lot of places. The one place that they got to that I really wanted to go to and didn't get to was the Polish Museum of Jewish History, which focuses on the ghetto uprising and whatnot. I did get to go to the museum that focuses on the Warsaw uprising. It's two separate incidents. The ghetto uprising happened 41, 42, I don't remember. But that was after all the Jews had been pushed into the ghetto and they realized what was happening. They basically decided that they might as well fight back. And it was one of the most tragic moments of courage in human history. And they were crushed. The second rising was basically it was the Polish Home Army, the underground, and they rose in the expectation that the Soviets, who had gotten close, would take advantage of the uprising in a major transport junction behind the German lines to advance to the relief of Warsaw. And instead, the communists decided to let the Germans kill the Home Army for them. And they, too, were crushed. And since the fall of the Soviet Union, the fall of the communist government in Poland, They have been, the museum is since all of that. My understanding is that the museum existed before the fall of the Polish government, the communist government, but that it has been significantly refurbished in the meantime. And I have to say, one of the things that I was able to do this trip more than on the previous ones because of the back problem was I actually spent more time sitting in one place talking to some of my Polish friends. Tomek Nowak and I closed the hotel bar one night because I was in a chair that didn't hurt my back and they were bringing me beer. Okay, I was happy. But we talked for hours. And the Poles' history runs closer to the skin than ours does. There are too many people who remember the 90s, remember Solidarity, remember the fall of the communist regime. And I wish there were more Americans who had that same sense of history. Because I think it's that lack of sense of history that makes it so easy for us to get into such, hyper-partisan debates. We lose that sense of, even when we disagree with each other, we're coming from a common place. It's very unfortunate. And that was one of the things I was able to do this trip in Poland, was to get into some of that with my Polish friends. And to get their perspective on things World War II-ish and post-World War II-ish, which differ in a lot of ways. I think in many ways more in detail than in substance, but in some places in substance, from the way that Americans, even informed Americans, think about the experience in Central and Eastern Europe after World War II. But it was despite the back pain, and the fact that it limited my mobility in ways that I didn't want to do. I enjoyed our time in Poland, and then we took the train from Poland to Prague, and that was about a 9-hour trip. And the one mistake that I made there was I didn't have the travel agent book an extra seat, because if we booked an extra seat, we would have had a first-class compartment just to ourselves, because there are 6 seats in it. And because we didn't book the full compartment, we had somebody coming and going all the way through the trip. And we had enough baggage that there was no place to put everything anyway. But we survived that. And we got to Prague.